Angelina Jolie, Narcissist, Part 10. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor as we continue to explore the evidence to make a determination as to what Angelina Jolie might be. We turn now to the use of drugs. Jolie is fairly open about drugs she's experienced with, but said very little about her use of heroin, although she went as far as to admit that she liked it and that at one point it meant a lot to her. Notice a recurring theme with Angelina Jolie. She puts things out there in a very straightforward way. I've taken heroin. I liked it. It meant a lot to me. Regularly, she shares aspects of her life and her views and just describes it as if she was telling you about what she'd had for dinner. She doesn't see this as problematic, which supports the suggestion that she is not very good at recognizing boundaries. It also demonstrates a sense of entitlement. However, it might be that she's just a particularly honest individual that believes, yes, I've done these things, I will admit to them. Okay, you might not want to hear it, but sometimes there are things that you need to hear. Jolie admitted that she had done just about every drug possible: cocaine, ecstasy, LSD, and her favourite, heroin. When she was pushed on the topic of her use of heroin, she stated flatly that she didn't want to go into detail. She's far more open about other drugs, such as cannabis, and she recalls how of all the drugs she took, it had the biggest effect on her. The worst effect, oddly enough, was pot, which made me feel out of control and I became silly and giggly. I liked LSD for a while until I went to Disneyland and started thinking about Mickey Mouse being a short middle-aged man in a costume who hates his life. My brain went the other way, and I started thinking, look at all those fake flowers. The kids are on leashes. The parents hate being here. Those drugs can be dangerous. I know friends who are no longer happy or interesting, living for junk all the time, and using people. Such behaviours show a lack of accountability. And of course, criminality is also an issue there with regard to the issue of accountability. Aside from drugs, some of her other behaviours leave much to be desired. She has been an individual who has admitted to killing or otherwise cruelly mistreating animals, which includes her own pets. That demonstrates an absence of emotional empathy. And of course, mistreating animals is often an indicator of psychopathy. We know that she's been viewed as a home wrecker, as I explained previously. She got with Johnny Lee Miller while he had a girlfriend. Billy Bob Thornton was engaged to Laura Dern. And then, of course, Pitt was married when she got with him. Repeatedly interferes in relationships with no due regard for the impact upon those people. Purportedly, she's also known as being a slut in Hollywood. Uma Thurman once called Angelina Jolie the town pump. She also experiences suicidal thoughts and ideations. Following her appearance in the film Gia, she explained, "This feeling of apathy and lack of direction in my life caused me to sink into another depression, which would cause me to contemplate ending it all. But this time I had no intention of doing the deed myself, and I went to the dramatic lengths of actually hiring a hitman to kill me. This is going to sound insane, but there was a time I was going to hire somebody to kill me. The person spoke very sweetly to me. He made me think about it for a month, and after a month, other things changed in my life, and I was surviving again. With suicide comes all the guilt of people around you thinking they could have done something. With somebody being murdered, nobody takes some kind of guilty responsibility." Is this a huge level of self-absorption? Or is this Angelina Jolie actually showing emotional empathy for other people by thinking, well, if I'm murdered, they're not going to feel guilty about it, rather than it being seen as a suicide, even though that actually was? Angelina Jolie also has a number of tattoos. Since she'd been a teenager, she'd taken a great interest in body art. Unfortunately for her, it was yet another hobby of hers that was viewed with suspicion and enhanced her morbid reputation. People interpret things strangely, she mused. I see tattoos as dark and romantic and tribal. And anyway, I do feel as if all that stuff has been like some sly move on my part, so that people will focus on the tattoos and knives, and that they won't really know anything about me. That also smacks of deflection and a nullification of potential threat to control by not allowing people to get close to her, a typical narcissist behaviour. Jolie likes to think that her tattoos were an indication of her spontaneous nature. For me, they're all about the moment, like when you jump out of a plane. I got one of my tattoos done in a tattoo parlour in Scotland by myself in the middle of the night. I don't regret it. It will always be a reminder of that moment. As well as the aforementioned H, Angelina had a Tennessee Williams quote on her left forearm, a prayer for the wild of heart kept in cages, a Latin cross on the lower left of her abdomen, a large tiger on her back, a dragon under the tiger, know your rights under her neck between her shoulders, two pointy black tribals on her lower back, strength of will written in Arabic on her right forearm, and quod me nutrit me destruit, Latin for what nourishes me also destroys me, below her navel. She later went on to have Billy Bob tattooed on her left arm as a tribute to her second husband, as well as a tattoo on her right forearm with a secret meaning. After the two split, Jolie had the tattoos removed with the help of laser treatment, and then had the coordinates representing the locations where her children were from tattooed on the place where Billy Bob had been. One of the tattoos that Jolie had talked about most is a window she had done on her lower back, which represented the fact that she was always searching for something better in life. To my mind, that demonstrates the inability to rest, to be content, another hallmark of perhaps somebody who becomes bored very easily, which points to antisocial behaviours. Jolie explained, I had it done because at the time I was always looking out of the window, she said. I always wanted to be somewhere else. Now I don't. Now I'm happy. Jolie also marked Maddox's adoption with a large protection prayer on her left shoulder. The work was carried out by monks and was one of her particular favourites. There are 5 vertical rows of ancient Cambodian script which are designed to ward off bad luck. I like it a lot. It looks very sacred. Other behaviours are the fact that she engages in locking herself in the basement every day and exercises for hours. An employee explained that she uses those endless workouts as a way to escape her family. Apparently, no one is to bother her during that time. Isolation a means of nullification of threat to control, parental abrogation of responsibilities and duties. According to celebrity biographer Andrew Morton, Angelina Jolie also slept with her mother's boyfriend when she was a minor of 16 years old, another instance of her interfering with somebody else's relationship. Marceline had a live-in boyfriend whom she was very much in love with, but Angelina slept with him when she was 16 and barely out of school. Her mother found out and ended the relationship with the man. Accordingly, interesting observations there, but there's more from other people as to what they have to say about her. Elizabeth Moss, who starred in Girl Interrupted with her, stated, whether her co-stars were as intimidated by bandleader Jolie as their characters were by Lisa is unknown, but for one thing's for sure, they definitely knew that they had an Oscar-winning performance in their midst. Elizabeth Moss stated, she would walk on set and change the energy of the room. It was as if a tiger was prowling around. We all knew while we were filming that she was doing something extraordinary. That goes to the magnetism and presence of Angelina Jolie, something, of course, about the energy which affects other people. Another individual, Ryder, remembers how disappointed she felt when Jolie kept her distance from her on set. I remember thinking, oh, we're going to turn out to be great friends. But Winona Ryder said, but I think she needed to be able to look at me just as the character Susanna, not as Winona. So in a very respectful way, she just kept her kind of distance. I would suggest that that's more likely haughtiness and arrogance and the way that she objectifies Winona Ryder. A former bodyguard of the Hollywood actress claimed that she is a self-centered control freak and totally psycho. The man, identified as Bill, worked for the Oscar-winning beauty at the start of her relationship with Brad Pitt and insists she's nothing like her do-gooder image. Angelina has a public and a private persona, he stated. In my opinion, the real Angelina is self-centered and a control freak. She has no patience at all. She doesn't do things out of the kindness of her heart, and she's totally psycho. She screams and yells a lot, then walks away, he said. If that evidence is accurate, that's demonstrative of haughty behaviours through having no patience, the use of manipulation by shouting at people, and then withdrawal as a further manipulation. He also claimed that she would often take out her anger on her partner and their kids. Lack of emotional empathy. She would disappear into her suite for hours, leaving the staff and Brad to deal with the children. She would punish them with silence, imposition of silent treatment. I think she could be abusive at times in a mental way, he added. The bodyguard also puts the onus of the couple's reportedly dying romance on Jolie, who is not trustworthy of Pitt and always needs to find out what he's been up to. Paranoia, absence of trust, need to control. He explained, she'll call him from the set to interrogate him. His face goes white, and he just stares at his feet. When Angelina's yelling becomes unbearable, Brad will put her on speaker and walk away from the phone. Angelina will hang up, nullification of threat to control by withdrawal, continuing to call until one of the staff then picks up, he said. An email exchange between Sony executives Amy Pascal and producer Scott Rudin was linked, and in it, Angelina Jolie was described not particularly well. Angelina wanted David Fincher to direct her movie Cleopatra instead of Jobs, but Scott told Amy that he didn't want to waste his time on this and that she was a minimally talented, spoiled brat. Bratish behaviour is often identified in narcissists. A smattering of further behaviours and observations from other people about Angelina Jolie, which provides you with further evidence of her behaviours. In part 11, we're going to examine the way that she behaves with reference to her children. Join me there.